Alrighty, greetings everybody. Welcome to Parliament House. One of our favourite places, isn't it? It is the 1st of March 2025 and we are here today for the Uniting Western Australia Against Net Zero Insanity. I have to applaud all of you for coming here. It's a beautiful sunny day and there is much appreciation from the people behind me, I know, to have every single one of you here today. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we bring on our first speaker. I'll make it very quick. We did have a message, the team got a message from the Security Operations Manager of Parliament House, who was informed by the executives that there's no toilet available to us today. And they suggested we carpool. So I think if we got 3 vehicles and we'll do a quick trip up to Kings Park, we'll all be fine. All right, everyone. So during the COVID war, they tried to take everything away from us, affected people in different ways. The only thing they've got left on a beautiful sunny day like today, because the weather hasn't kept us away, is trying to take our toilets. That's how ridiculous these people are. We are here united, standing together, wonderful different groups and people together. The first person I'd like to introduce you to today is the wonderful Martine Shepherd from Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay. She's been the campaign coordinator, studied coastal zone management and surf science and worked for the Department of Environment. She has vowed to stop all offshore wind turbines in Western Australian waters. The reality in her eyes is if one single offshore wind turbine is placed in our beautiful WA waters, then our oceans will be flooded with failing money laundering systems, and that will impact many generations and cause irreparable habitat damage. So I introduce to you the wonderful, beautiful Martine Shepherd.
Wow, it's beautiful weather. Don't know where the rest of WA is, but they missed the right spot, eh? Give yourself a round of applause for turning up. Thank you. Yesterday wasn't a great day for the offshore wind campaign coordinators. Blackout Bowen, the coward that he is, announced on their side that they've already licensed to the Hunter and to Warrnambool. So our hearts go out to those campaign coordinators in those areas that Bowen and Tanya Plevasek and Albanese have utterly failed in Australia. All I can say is that so many people bet that the other wing of this bird was going to stand up for us. What they don't comprehend is that once licences are given out, that they then would have to take it into court. I've been banging on this drum, the uni party. We know the uni party, don't we? The uni party is that one plays one cop, the other plays the other cop, and they ping pong along with their Punch and Judy show and think that we haven't woken up. Well, after a year of being the campaign coordinator for Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay, I played my own game, and we as a team played our own game and didn't start lobbying. We went out there and we met with stakeholders all across Western Australia. For me, the most important thing is that we have to unite. We have seen nothing but division and attack on our culture, our communities, and who we are as people. And all I know is that today the people that are coming to speak and come together are true souls that want unity in this state and in this nation. I'm sick of our country being degraded. I'm sick of our oceans being attacked, our land being attacked. Just to talk briefly on how things have gone over the last 12 months, not only have I been the campaign coordinator for Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay and meeting with community members all across this beautiful state and across Australia, we've also been networking with international groups. And what we're seeing from the repercussions of the offshore wind turbines going into the US waters particularly is truly and utterly disturbing. This little handout here is what I turned up with for that dismal and debacle consultation process that the Department of Climate Change, Energy and Water and Mr. Bowen's department sent to us to tick boxes and nothing but. And on this, we already articulated that we're very concerned about the impact of not only the survey vessels and the pre-construction surveying, but the actual construction of the monopile driving. I can tell you now we've had confirmation from fisheries on the east coast of Massachusetts where things have started to cascade as far as total destruction of the food chain. I have statistics here that show that 22 million pounds of scallops were caught 4 years ago in those usual nets and fisheries in that area of the Massachusetts coastline, and now over 3 years they've had 50% decline on their population of scallops. Scallops are an indicator species for benthic or sessile animals. So what we're seeing is not only major death on the east coast of Wales, but we're seeing the implications of areas in Nantucket that have had what we call crab graveyards. I've got photographs that prove entire beaches along the Nantucket coastline was strewn with dead and decaying bodies of crabs that tried to get out of the water when their seismic activity started and they were starting to go through and put in the monopiles. Again, we have the death of invertebrates before the high voltage underwater cables have even been put in. Now we have all kinds of population of the fisheries being affected, as well as people are starting to wake up to what they didn't fight back against. Unfortunately, I'd like to think that West Australia and Australians were a bit more awake and on the money than this, but I can see, unfortunately, that it looks like we're going to have to learn the hard way, which means that I've asked people to prepare themselves pulling out dead whales out of our oceans, especially down in Geograph Bay. It's a birthing area where mothers come to nurse and birth their southern right whales and their humpbacks. These are protected species, but Tanya Plebisek doesn't seem to give a crap about that anymore. It seems to be for this overarching global agenda that for climate hysteria. I believe in climate change. Did you get that? I do believe in climate change, Four Corners and ABC, but I do not believe in the hysteria that your response to that is irreparable damage to our habitat and loss of biodiversity. Because what we see at this point is the only thing sustainable and green about this swindle is the amount of green money that's being poured into foreign corporations, that all this money is going offshore. All I can say is that if we do not unite and we do not wake up, we are going to have a total onslaught of these foreign corporations in our waters, and we are going to have this government steamroll every community. I cannot stress enough that if we do not get out there and make our voices heard, and we do not help these people awaken to the science that's been suppressed, the evidence that is already out there, there is science from as far back as 2011 that show that underwater high voltage cables severely impact invertebrates, not only just in their movement, but also in their fertility and larvae hatching. That's why we went and had a chat to the rock lobster industry, which were pretty concerned. Now, unfortunately, I haven't heard back from a few of them. I've been in touch with them and said, if you think this goes ahead and sneaky blackout Bowen announces after our election day, because you know sure as hell isn't going to announce our zone before we go to the polls next Saturday. All I can say is you need to fight for this state, and that means you need to find yourself a really good independent or a minor party that is actually representing the people. Not corporations, not agendas from overseas. All I can say is that someone who's born and bred in WA, born in Bruce Rock, and was a Wheatbelt girl, the ocean is my spirit, and I will fight with my life to defend it. Bowen wants the war in his hands, and the philosophers, if you don't know what that word is, philosophers are people that are committed and loving the ocean because it's in their spirit. We are ocean people. It defines who we are. He's got a will, and we're ready for the fight. Next week I go to Canberra with the lovely Suzanne, and we'll have a few words. We've got some things to say to the senators there and those that have not tried to protect our waters, our biodiversity and our habitats, because it goes against every kind of legislation, acts and treaties that we have internationally and in our own nation. Utterly appalling. All I can say is that next week when you go to the polling booths, vote Labor last, Teals, the Greens, and I tell you right now, there's a big bloody question mark against the Liberals. What I'd be doing is putting phone calls into Libby Metum and Mr Dawson and ask him, how's he going to fight this next Sunday, next Monday after election when Blackout Bowen announces our zone, because you sure as hell know that that's coming. Every time I've asked for transparency, every time I've been on the phone to that department, they blow us off with, oh, we just don't have that updated information. And I told them at no point have they had any form of transparency. We've seen in the last week how they've just given powers away to the uni party. They're trying to squash any kind of independent voice and a voice that represents the people. I'm super proud to be standing on these steps in front of this place that the people actually own. We also own our power grid. So do not by any means think that this is over, because if we say no, Western Power and Synergy, listen up. The people of Western Australia own our electricity grid, and by hell we're not going to give it over. We're not going to give over our waters either. Thank you all for coming. I will be speaking again a bit later on, but I cannot wait to welcome the rest of these incredible souls that have given so much time, energy and love to protecting WA and standing up for our rights in every area that you can imagine. So thank you. I'm going to hand you back to Robin. Thanks.
Beautiful, wonderful Martine Shepherd from Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay. You can find them on Facebook. Please go and follow them. It's my great pleasure to introduce guest speaker number 2, and it is of course the Honourable Sophia Marmond. She is a current sitting member for the Legislative Council here, and I do have a short paragraph to read about you, Sophie. Would you like to stand next to me while I do it? Because a fun fact about Sophia is, as I said, she's a sitting member, and there was one point in time during the tyrannical COVID war that Sophia refused to show her papers, so you're the only person in this place that was excluded for a period of time and wasn't allowed to enter the building. So that's a wonderful fun fact about Sophia. A round of applause, that's right, 100%. Sophia has supported Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay and stopping offshore wind turbines. She's represented the injustice of the Southern Marine Park in Esperance. You completed a survey which showed that nearly 94% of residents in Kalbarri want the Murchison Green Hydrogen Project stopped. And Sophia has also supported no wind turbines at Scott River and protecting vital agricultural land and food security. Round of applause for Sophia.
Thank you, Robin, for that lovely introduction. Thank you to Martine for organising and her crew being here as well. So, in regards to wind turbines, I think we've been sold a lie. So we get told that wind turbines are good for the environment, they're going to help us save the planet, and they're going to make electricity prices less, which is lovely, but the facts around that don't add up at all. Now, I do just want to state that we absolutely need to look after our environment. This is vital, very important, and whatever we choose to do should not have any further negative effects on the planet or on human health. So when we're looking at wind turbines now, they're tall. They are as tall as some of the buildings that we see here in Perth. So they're massive, with their blades up to 110 metres long. And they may be getting bigger as well. So obviously, wildlife is going to be affected by that. and we're looking at bird life, in particular, birds flying into those blades and being, you know, up to 200 meters off the ground. Obviously, those birds aren't expecting there to be anything in their way. Now, there are other effects as well that have been noticed. So, and it is really hard to find the evidence of all of this. Right? So whenever we are trying to go against what major corporations want, Google seems to be helping them in many ways. So we're looking at interference with whale migration pathways, for instance. We are looking at the ocean being turned into a building site for several years at a time. Right? Now, crabs apparently really like the electricity cables that are running between the wind turbines and shore, and they are hypnotized by them, and their normal behaviors go out of the window, so they stop procreation. This obviously upsets the delicate balance of wildlife, fish, whatever else lives on the bottom there, including corals as well. Then, when you are looking at the pole driving that is employed to install those wind turbines in the ocean floor, there is a link there to seal pup deaths in the UK, where it was noted that after the pile drivers, with the amount of noise sending out from there, there was a decline in seal population, and they found a lot of dead seal pups. So that once again goes against the marketing that we're seeing, that wind turbines are good for us, good for the planet, and good for the environment. It's not at all the case. Right, then when we start looking at human health, you're looking at infrasound in particular. Now, infrasound has been associated with vertigo, nausea, tinnitus, cardiac issues, poor sleep, insomnia, and reduction in immune system, because when you don't sleep well, your immune system goes down too. And then you're looking at depression and anxiety as well. So one of the things that I have found is, so my background is as a naturopath and traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. Yeah? And when we are looking at the environment, as Westerners, we compartmentalize things really, really well. But when you look at it from a holistic perspective, which is what you get to do as a naturopath and Chinese medicine practitioner, we find that so many things are interlinked. Yeah, and we don't even, as Westerners, we might not even be looking for some of the effects that wind turbines may be having on the environment, simply because we compartmentalize. We talk about the environment being localized. We might not think that putting in wind turbines in one location, like Geograph Bay, for instance, may interfere with the currents up and down the coast as well. A good example of this recently is the Ocean Reef Marina works, which have started, and weirdly enough, all of a sudden there's algal blooms off the coast at Mullaloo Beach there. This has never happened before, wasn't predicted. The works weren't even that big, and yet there was some sort of linked side effect associated with that. Then one of the things that happens with wind turbines as well, and that makes them economically viable for companies to run, is the fact that they get a lot of subsidies for them. So according to my amazing staffer Alex, who's done a deep dive into this, a wind turbine can get subsidies of up to about $1 million a year. Yeah, so when you have a farm and the company is paying you $40,000 to put a wind turbine on there, you're getting ripped off, basically. So that is something to be aware of. And that money doesn't stay in WA, all right? That money goes to overseas companies in Denmark, and I think the Netherlands is another one of those places. So it's not helping us financially, and our power bills aren't going down either. So one statistic I saw recently is that our power has gone up about 83%, our power bills. That's massive, considering the amount of money that we're putting into renewables at the moment. You'd expect it to go down. Not the case. Now, after about 20 years, these wind turbines wear out. They don't become viable anymore as a business proposition. So they are then mostly abandoned and left for the person owning the land to clean that up, and often that doesn't really happen. So not only do we have health effects, we have environmental effects, we also have economic effects, and that makes wind turbines entirely unviable, and we need to look at other ways of creating energy and reducing our impact on the planet. Anyway, we're all going to the elections on Saturday the 8th, right? Look for us in column M, one above the line. That would be amazing. Cool. Thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Sophia. In case you missed it, the M group will be to the right-hand side of your election paper. All right, everybody. It is another great pleasure of mine to welcome a farmer, Max Schultz, and he is a grandfather to 8 grandchildren. And he's from We Oppose the Southern Marine Park. As I said, he's a farmer, a pioneer of his farm at Munglanup since 1976, worked away in the mines to pay and develop his farm. I have in my introduction about you, Max, that you spent 18 months in prison for contempt of court for clearing regrowth bush in 2011 on your farm. Round of applause. So March 2024, Max formed a group including 3 women to oppose the Southern Marine Park. A huge round of applause for Max Schultz, please.
Thank you, Robert. At least I'm comfortable. I hope you are out there. What a fabulous day it is, and a fabulous crowd to be here. You people are the core of the fight against socialism, communism, and the dictatorship that this state is now running under. Back to the Marine Park. Now, I'm going to start at the end, not the beginning. The end is basically this, that when the new Parliament comes into the sitting on the 25th of March, with the Conservatives holding power, they will disallow the South Coast Marine Park. It'll be gone. That's our current status with that. So all the people in West Australia have a responsibility to just vote for Conservative parties to get these socialist dictators out of power. So I've begun at the end, and I'll now return to the beginning. Now, if you bear with me, I've got a prepared statement from the executive of We Oppose, wrong, so much is going through my mind at the moment, so we'll try again. It's Oceans for Everyone Association. They have gone through and prepared a statement for me, and if you bear with me, I'll read it out to you. Here we go. Word for word. The South Coast Marine Park is a political marine park. Even senior representatives like Peter Shire from the Department of Environment, Biodiversity Conservation and Attractions, which is now called DBCA, have admitted that the park's location is flexible, merely fulfilling a political promise. Esperance was an easy target because it's a safe National Liberal coalition seat, and it will be again. The boundaries of the park stop at the electoral boundaries so as not to upset any Labor voters. Now, that may very well be a point that people in Albany have to really worry about, because of recent Rick Wilson, the federal member for O'Connor, who lives in Albany when he's not in Parliament, he's also been making sure that the Minister for the Environment, Reece Whitby, knows full well that the people in Albany do not want a marine park extended right and continuing on right through there, and it'll wind its way up the coast and join up with all the existing marine parks. Back to the letter. And the Director General of DBCA will have the power to restrict access to any area, even beaches, at any time without consultation. This is the exact method that was used to restrict access to the horizontal falls. I think that's up in the Kimberleys, as we all know. A grassroots committee formed in Esperance to advocate for evidence-based policies that support sustainable development and protect the interests of the local community. The association was facilitated collection of it's really quite tragic when you've got clumsy fingers and these new devices. When I was a kid at school, this would have been a nightmare, even now it is. Anyway, here we go. Most MPO advocates say that they want to protect the marine ecosystem, but in practice the only threat MPAs protect the ocean from is fishing. They do not protect from global warming, ocean acidification, sea level rise, coastal development, runoff of sediments. Now this is the very important thing for us farmers, because the management plan allows their rangers to come and tell you that you're not allowed to use fertiliser on your place because it's going to upset the system. And pollutants from the land, invasive species or shipping. He suggests that there is a problem with overfishing. The best solution is to reduce fishing effect directly rather than displacing it through MPAs. And in Western Australia, the fisheries and ecosystems are already sustainably managed by the Fisheries Department. We already have the gold standard of fisheries management here, one which other countries aspire to. So what is the point of this part, other than to place extra unnecessary layers of bureaucracy and control? And that last word is exactly what they want. They want control. The government has become like a stage 4 cancer, which is about to kill the host. Add to this that 48% of Australian waters are already Commonwealth Marine Park. If marine parks were in fact about protecting the environment, why would the controlling Indigenous Corporation of the Buccaneer Marine Park be considered a deal with Tazal to expand barramundi fishing in the name of the marine park? That's a good question. Esperance successfully prevented tuna farming being implemented in the surrounding waters 20 years ago. And I was involved with that, and I think the effort that the people from Esperance put together for that was really good, because now it's shown how it would have been a real big no-no. The last thing we want is power over the oceans being given away so they can make deals to allow fish farming to occur. Fish farming is terrible for the ecosystems. Our wild-caught commercial fisheries in Esperance are actually a model for sustainability, and such small scale that it is illogical to limit them further. Sanctuary zones have been placed arbitrarily and are not evidence-based. And one of these sanctuary zones is directly in my area at Mundanup. It basically means that people in my community aren't allowed to hop in their boat and go out fishing out there. Nearly there. Proponents for the park claim that sea lions and leafy sea dragons must be protected. They already are. It is illegal to catch these creatures under the present laws before the marine park was instigated. Sea lions are already protected by exclusive areas in their current archipelago that we have now. The weather and ocean conditions in the proposed area naturally prevent fishermen from going out anyway. That is a brief from the Oceans for Everyone, and must thank Sophie, the politician to be, again for the future, for her help in helping Oceans for Everyone table a mandate. Numbers of 6,366 people from the Esperance area signed this, demanding that the government say no to the marine park. This has been tabled in Parliament. It's been tabled before the Governor-General and the Governor. They've all set it aside and ignored it. In due course, they're going to be in for a shock, because as soon as money is available, this matter of the mandate will be taken through law, and it can be proven then basically that the people power is what's important. One of the things that sort of I found in the research, as some of you may have done as well, when a politician takes oath to serve the people in this parliament here in Western Australia, the oath is to serve the people. It just goes to show that none of them are doing this. They're serving their own intents, their own party line, and this must be shown to them because it's actually an offence against the Evidence Act. So all these politicians that are not doing what us, the people, say, they are breaking the law. Talking about breaking the law. Reece Whitby, the Environmental Minister, has breached his own Calm Act, where it says basically the common law right of people to fish, recreational fishermen, is there in the Calm Act and is enshrined by legislation. It is there. You might be getting a bit warm out there, so I'll rush it through a bit. What I've got in my hand here is a copy of a joint management plan. The whole marine park extends from Eucla, near the South Australian border, right through the Bremer Bay. It's broken up into 4 sections, and this one that I've got in my hand is called the Woodjarri Marine Park. That's relative to the Esperance area and what all these people that I've mentioned before have complained about. We want to talk about the people. I've also want to mention that there was over 6,000 people that signed my petition, number 141 of 24, to oppose the marine park. It went right through to Reece Whitby, and he basically threw it out and said not interested. And apart from that, we've had the federal politicians, Rick Wilson once again, come into the issue. He put out an online survey, and there was over 5,900 people responded, and 90% of those people said no to the marine park. He even took it further, and he had a speech in federal parliament in Canberra on the very same subject around about the same time. So it's not as if people don't know what's going on. So there's lots more to talk about and so on, and relevant, for instance, this management plan. There's 3 levels of discrimination in there against us, the people. It was taken to the Equal Opportunity Commission when it was only a draft management plan, but that was withdrawn because they wouldn't consider it was only because it was a draft. Now that it is a fair income management plan, that matter will be referred back to Equal Opportunities Commission on the 3 points of discrimination. Now, there's a lot more to say to this, and one of the most interesting things is after Reece Whitby made the marine park law on Cup Day of last year, it was then gazetted on Hansard. Very soon after that, we started hearing all this noise about green energy hub out on the Nullarbor. And they were only just waiting for this marine park to be actually gazetted before they started making that public. And the things that are going on out there, will be going on out there, will be a nightmare for us now and our children in the future. Thank you very much for listening to me. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Max. I've just got to put my humour in here at the moment. We did have Channel 9 here. Channel 9, round of applause for Channel 9. After 40 minutes, he's a little bit hot. Grabbed his trolley full of lies and he's gone. So thank you, Channel 9. See you later. Thank you to wonderful independent media. We can see Max Freedom over there, taking some beautiful photos. I drove past Government House this morning with the wonderful umbrella people and saw Max Freedom down there with, of course, his much better half, Sharon, who is also in the crowd hiding behind Pillow with the flag. Everyone look at her now. There we go. Let me get on to the next guest. I'm sorry. This is Adrian Lippy from Double Impact Fishing. Adrian is a commercial fisherman and a primary producer, comes from a commercial lobster fishing family and has been commercial fishing for the last 20 years. He united with Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay for the protection of people's rights to have access to top quality food sources and for people to retain their rights. So a round of applause for Adrian.
Welcome, Perth. Good morning. Well, it's good to see everyone here today. You never get discouraged about the numbers because we are here. And that's all that matters. And you know what? We're here and we're not going away. Okay? We're here to fight this bullshit and this tyranny from whatever angle that it needs to be fought. Okay? So, my name's Adrian Lippy. I'm a commercial wetliner. I come from a commercial prey fishing family. I was raised as a kid mainly up through Jurien Bay. As a kid, I've seen all those coastal towns thriving with the industry that was in there. There was many boats, families would come up. It was your typical West Australian summer. Your station wagons with your surfboards at the back, caravan parks full, everyone having a fat time. Prey fishing boats would come in, people on the jetties buying deep sea crabs, ockie, blah, blah, blah. Fantastic. That's what the towns were made of. As I slowly started getting older, started seeing the industries having problems, lots of highs and lows, and started to become more lows than highs. And I was saying to my father, well, you know, what's going on here? So, no, it's just, this is what's going to happen. You know, they lost the contract with China, and so how can they lose it? They still want to eat them. Like, what's going on? So, as time went on, you know, you start opening your eyes a little bit more. You start asking a few questions. You start lifting up a few rocks, and you start seeing a few answers to your questions that, you know, these politicians don't answer. So as time went on, when the lows really set in, I seen places like Jurien Bay, Lanceland, you know, they really hit the wall. Towns, industry was gone. Towns were just about gone broke. People were leaving, families were leaving. So I used to think, why is this happening, you know, up to about 10 years ago. So I looked into it, and, you know, when John Howard was in almost 30 odd years ago, before he got out, he signed the Green Deal off then. So that's 30 years. That's how far in advance these parasites plan this shit, okay? So it's just not that it's been happening in the last 5 years and they're taking the backhanders now. This has been going on for a long, long time. In this time, especially in towns like Jurien, I've seen, you know, suicides, families go broke, you know, prey fishing boats and licenses back then, you know, it was, you know, 1.5 million at 18%, you know, and when they can't sell the craze because the government's toying with China and places like that. Families are hitting the walls flat out, suicides are coming in, deckies, skippers are necking themselves in prey pot sheds. I lost my cousin that way. That's just the way it is. So, you know, implementing these wind turbines, it just totally goes against every act and international law and regulation that's ever been put in play. As commercial skippers, we've got to abide by the Marpole Act, which was put in the early 70s. And that was an act that went on started on trading vessels that you couldn't put rubbish and oils into the ocean. Then it went on every single commercial boat. If we got caught, you know, throwing a bit of plastic over the side, we'd be crucified. So the fact that they want to desecrate the ocean, the reef systems and the sea life by putting millions of cubic metres of concrete into the ocean as pylons to bolt these things to, which, you know, concrete leaches acid, which is going to kill, you know, seagrass, reef, lobster, any fish that are around it. The ocean's going to heat up by 5%, which the crayfish are then going to walk out the ocean because the oxygen content won't be there. So it's just catastrophic. At least now, you know, when we started doing this, you know, 12, 18 months ago, trying to get the word out to the people, but at least now we can see them failing that badly in America, catching on fire, blades hitting the water. You know, probably the best place that it's happening is Martha's Vineyard, you know, where all the pollies have got all their homes. All their beaches are shut down because they've got carbon fibre shards washing up on the beaches. There's gearbox oil and motor oil leaching into the waters. So, you know, the way the universe works sometimes, it's really come back to get them there. The last few years, with our wetlining, same as the crayfishing and stuff, you know, it's been heavy restrictions on our quota. This year again, they've cut our quota by half again, so it makes it really, really hard to even get out there and make it worth your while in a certain zone to fish, because they say they've done the stock take on the ocean and they know how many fish is there, there's not enough fish, da-da-da-da-da-da. So they've got the science, so that's the way they're going. But many talks now have asked the Minister of Fisheries to come and stand by us, because if he's got the science and there's not enough fish, well, why wouldn't he try and stop these turbines going in to prolong the sustainable fish stocks that we have, rather than desecrate it? And once our oceans are desecrated, our lifetimes, our kids' lifetimes, we will never see the repair of that, ever again. We totally catastrophic. Like all things governments are pushing, it totally goes against our constitution, 1901. It's unconstitutional. It's totally illegal. And we know that because under our constitution, 1901, it states that the governments do not have the rights to our oceans to be able to sell them off. So it's a treasonous act, what they're doing against the Australian people. Treason is a war crime, minimum 25 years imprisonment. But this is what we get when we have idiots running our countries. They have no idea, they get paid off, and this is the way it goes. So, in saying that, like I said, it's great that we're here today, but we're here today to send the message back to these guys. The message is, we are here, we are not going away. We are the people which hold the power to this country. We're going to come here and we're going to take our country back and we're going to make Australia great again.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Oh, we have having a best sign prize. I think Port Labor Last from Keep the Sheep is the winning sign today, especially when we've got people out campaigning at the moment against the uni party. I call it Two Cheeks the Same Bum, but that's just me. It's my great pleasure once again to bring on our next guest. It is Paul Sharkey Clark, the founding member of Keep Kalbarri Beautiful to stop the Murchison Green Hydrogen Ammonia project. He's been a rock lobster fisherman for 45 years. A cray fisherman who loves the ocean and is a committed steward of the Western Australian waters and is also a devout Christian. Can we please welcome Paul Sharkey Clark to the stage?
Thank you everyone for your work to stop the destruction of Australia, our environment and our way of life. It may be of interest, on this day in 1942, the HMAS Perth was sunk with my father on board, defending Australia and our freedoms in World War II. Meanwhile, Labor and the Greens policy is going to destroy Australia, our economy, our environment, and take our freedoms away with their socialist agenda. In representing the lobster industry, which is under extreme threat from offshore wind turbines, marine parks, and hydrogen ammonia plants. If Labor and the Greens have their way, we will be locked out of the ocean, limiting our access to fishing grounds and the impact of offshore wind turbines that could decimate the lobsters and other fisheries, as it has been shown overseas. This is what can happen when wind turbines are put in the fragile ecosystem of the oceans, not to mention other marine species, from algae to whales to seabirds. This will result in devastation of the environment and marine life in our pristine oceans. The cost to the environment is unacceptable, let alone the cost to the economy. The cost to put these structures and infrastructures in the ocean defies logic. If they stay together after many failures worldwide, with maintenance, they have an approximate lifespan of 19 years before decommissioning. Again, at what cost? For an unreliable, expensive energy source, makes it even more ridiculous to risk our fishing industries, including the rock lobster industry, which is Australia's most lucrative fishing export. Coupled with marine parks, they will lock us out of traditionally fished grounds by families for generations, not to mention loss of livelihoods. Soon you may not be able to catch a fish from the beach or boat for dinner if Labor and the Greens have their way. There will be a marine park and wind turbines near you. At the moment, they are trying to lock us out north of Kalbarri by a proposal for hydrogen ammonia plant positioned in prime fishing and cray ground. Totally experimental with no market, again destroying the environment. With over 500 wind turbines and 7,000 hectares of solar panels, refinery and ship loading export facilities in natural, pristine land and waters. One spill of the ammonia could result in an environmental disaster. Again, what for? It defies logic. Even though these projects are on our doorstep, the present government policy is to have them around Australia, and we must join the fight to stop the so-called green bull dust of renewables that have to be renewed all the time, and the marine parks. It's also happening in our farmlands, dividing neighbours and wiping out our farms, and the negative health impacts cannot be ignored. Meanwhile, Labor and the Greens won't listen to our objections or entertain any dialogue or communications. Do they think we are stupid? They don't seem to care about the primary industries that are so important to Australia's future. Nor do they seem to care about our environment or the flora and fauna, oceans and marine life, and our jobs. Vote Labor and the Greens last to stop the destruction. Liberals and the Nationals coalition appear to be against offshore wind turbines and marine parks and give better support to our primary industries, and could be the best chance to stop Labor. Hopefully they will get Australia out of the stupidity of net zero and the Paris Accord and follow America's lead. Also stop the environmental damage of so-called renewables, which are anything but green or clean. Australia has been blessed with vast deposits of coal, oil and gas and uranium. Let's keep the lights on. Join the groups and educate, such as Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay. We oppose the South Coast Marine Park. Keep Kalbarri beautiful. Stop reckless renewables. Fishermen against offshore wind. Keep the sheep, and more groups that are in the fight to protect Australia. Educate your friends and your neighbours to vote Labor and the Greens last and out before they destroy Australia's economy, our environment, our fishing and farming industries, our lifestyles and our freedoms. Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. And say your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To Paul Shark. Paul just mentioned a number of groups there and, you know, also about talking to your neighbours, all these sorts of wonderful things. But, you know, as the rally is about Western Australia and all these different groups uniting, you know, with unity we can amplify the influence. And despite the numbers here, you know, we must remind ourselves that it's the people behind us and the offshore companies that are worried about the group's voices. They are worried about it. And so when these groups come together, you know, they really have the opportunity to shape our future, and lots of us are here because of children, grandchildren, all those sorts of things. So without unity, we do miss those opportunities. So it's absolutely fantastic to have all the groups here today. Yes, round of applause for all of you as well again. So our next guest is the wonderful Scott Baxter from No Wind Turbines, Scott River. There's a few shirts around here, fantastic to see. Scott is a 4th generation beef cattle farmer from Scott River in the southwest, in case you didn't know where it was. Scott is one of the lead campaigners for No Wind Turbines, Scott River, and has been pushing back against industrialisation of neighbouring farmland for 2 years now. So, round of applause for Scott from No Wind Turbines, Scott River.
Thanks, Robin. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming today. Yeah, my family and I are beef cattle farmers. We own a property at the Scott River that's been earmarked for a 30 turbine project right next door to our family farm. The developer, Synergy Red, approached us 2 years ago to host wind turbines. There's been a lack of transparency. It's just how they do business. From the very first day, the lawyers roll into town, offering cash incentives to say nothing and to keep your thoughts and information confidential. It was then that I realised that they were pulling our leg and we needed to do our own research on what was being proposed and to not take the bait. It was then I realised I was dealing with a bunch of crooks and they thought we were stupid. Our region, the Scott River area, is not just any rural land, it's a biodiversity hotspot. And this means it's home to a diverse range of flora and fauna that are dependent on the unique ecological conditions that we have at Scott. The proposed wind turbines threaten to disrupt this delicate balance, potentially leading to irreversible damage to the environment. Block sizes are too small at the Scott River to safely host industrial wind energy project of this size and scale. And to paint you a picture, the wind turbines proposed for the Scott River will be unprecedented and some of the largest land-based turbines in the world at 7 megawatts and 250 metres high. So 250 metres high is the same size as that BHP building right there. That'll be 30 skyscrapers, that size, towering over our family farm 365 days of the year. The closest turbines will be less than a couple of 100 metres from our boundary, and we won't be able to distance ourselves safely from the giant turbines if they're placed on direct adjoining land. Western Australia is the Wild West when it comes to governing the wind industry. WA has adapted renewable energy policies from other states and territories with little consideration for prime agricultural land and protecting it for future generations to ensure that we can continue to feed the people of the future and protect neighbours and community from inappropriate industrial projects in the sensitive areas like the Scott River. Our concerns around health and safe distances aren't being taken seriously by the developer. In fact, they've been disrespectful, stating in news reports that we should calm the farm. We have valid and serious concerns about the industrial mega project next door, and we will calm the farm, as they have put it, when they start to provide solid answers to our questions. The reality is wind turbines are a health risk. You've got the noise that you can hear measured in decibels, and then you have the sound that's produced ultrasonically by the blades, and that's called infrasound. We don't hear it as such. It's more like a frequency and a vibration, and it's measured below 20 hertz. Infrasound easily travels through the walls of your home and into the human body, and this creates serious discomfort in people, causing sleep disturbance, balance problems, nausea, and headaches. Don't get me started on the electromagnetic radiation emitted from these things too. The World Health Organization recommends no more exposure to electromagnetic radiation than 0.3 microtesla to avoid adverse health effects. The modern day wind turbine with the 7 megawatt industrial magnets inside emits 1.4 million microtesla of radiation. These things are off the charts and they should be illegal. Landgate records show that the developer, Synergy Red, has caveats over 4 landowners' titles, and this confirms that these landowners have signed lengthy land access agreements of 66 years with the developer without knowing all the information up front. It's very much a scenario of cart before the horse. Hydrology, bird surveys, environmental reports, noise modelling and acoustic reports should be presented in the first instance before any landowner or host is lured into a 60-year contract. There's questions around ownership long term and who will clean them up and be responsible for restoration at the end of the life of the project. We've seen a little bit of a switch now. There's a new investment, 80%, here via an Italian company, NL Green Power, and a Japanese giant, Inpex, with a track record again of just setting these projects up and selling them off to a new investor. Contamination of farmland and waterways is a serious concern for residents. The 100-metre long blades of the wind turbines erode during the operation, and this leading edge erosion spreads microplastics over great distances. The particles eroded from the blades include epoxy, which is 40% BPA, a frequently banned endocrine disruptor and neurotoxin. The wind industry is self-regulated and there are currently no state government policies in place to protect people's health, pollution or the environment from these things. The Scott River District is known for its high ecological value, and the entire project sits inside the sensitive Scott River Ecological Community, protected federally under the EPBC Act of 1999. There's 26 species listed as threatened, priority or under protection that occur within the Scott River catchment. You don't need to be a zoologist or a doctor to understand the impacts wind turbines will have on the wildlife and the people. It's clear the developers and international investors have little regard. It's simply about the dollars and no cents. There's a very probable risk also of acid sulfate soils being created during and after the construction of these enormous wind turbines, and what this will present to the sensitive waterways of the Scott and Blackwood River, neighbouring farmland and then out into Flinders Bay near Augusta. It's been proven 20 odd years ago with the failed Beanup mineral sand mine that sits adjacent to the site that BHP could not contain the toxic reaction in the soil when they disturb the soil below a certain depth. The environmental disaster cost the mining company $800 million to clean up and is still under ongoing rehabilitation to ensure the toxic sulfuric acid and heavy metals do not leach into the nearby Scott River. The modern wind turbine requires substantial footings of 10 metres plus and extensive underground cabling to connect to the grid. So wind turbine foundations on this known high-risk acid sulfate soil site are a disaster waiting to happen. We really need to see state and federal government shaping new revised policy around the wind and solar industry to protect neighbouring landowners, prime agricultural land and our biodiversity. The Renewable Energy Act of 2000 should be scrapped because it's a playbook written by the wind industry for the wind industry. Farms are for food, they're not for unreliable, expensive, intermittent electricity sources like wind and solar. We need to protect our farmland and our food security for future generations. I've got concerns about the so-called green energy rollout and the locations that developers are eyeing off for a quick dollar to capitalise on the so-called climate emergency. I've got a petition that I'll be presenting to the Shire and the Parliament in the coming weeks, and I'd really appreciate your support today with that one. We've collected nearly 1,000 signatures so far in just under 2 months of campaigning on that one. And thanks for coming today to take the next step in understanding why the Scott River should be protected for future generations. It's truly a beautiful and unique location, and we're going to do all we can to keep it wild and keep the bastards on us. And vote Labor last.
Thank you very much, Scott. From No Wind Turbines, Scott River. Yes, the shirts, as I said, many in the crowd, fantastic to see. A huge thank you to Christian, the Fluoro Man, for handing out the Light Australian newspaper. If you haven't got a copy, head to the Fluoro Man. My next guest is actually a neighbour of mine, but we all know each other, don't we? Let me introduce Rob Forster. He's a cattle and sheep farmer of more than 25 years in Western Australia, who has been very concerned about the continual degrading of farmers and primary producers. Rob has been an advocate and pushing back against net zero and global agendas that are destroying our industries and taking our land. So a huge round of applause for Rob Forster, everyone.
Good morning, folks. I have laid everything out that I wanted to speak about in written form, so I'm going to read it to you. Hopefully I get some emotion in it. But I just want to remain structured and focused with what I've actually got to say. I'm actually very privileged to be speaking to you guys today, and you have heard that I produce sheep and beef. I also breed horses, but that's an aside. We must remember that primary production includes all range of farmers, chicken, egg farmers, dairy, pig, marron, vegetable farmers, honey producers, timber growers, nurserymen, orchardists, wine growers and boutique farmers of many descriptions. So I am not just here today to speak about farming from a beef and sheep perspective. Along with these enterprises, there are thousands of people servicing the farming industry in the regions. It is a given that farmers live in remote locations. They do not have hospitals, police, fire or countless other services within easy commute of their farms or stations as those that live in cities or regional towns. Our regions have suffered through reduced services of every type. Teachers, doctors and other professionals would rather work in the cities where life is just that much easier and roads are well maintained and nowhere as dangerous to travel. Road conditions have been made worse because of that politicians gave away. I'm going to say it again, gave away our Tier 3 rail that spread over tens of thousands of kilometres, and they have not been maintained, as was the deal. And these politicians want the taxpayer to foot the $5 billion plus to repair it. Simply not good enough. The corporations that actually got our rail are the ones that are responsible for actually upkeeping it, and to require $5 to $6 billion is just a piss take from us. By design, many of our smaller family farms have been bought up by corporate agribusiness that has no interest in the culture of the bush or traditional farming life or practices. And we, as West Australian farmers, are very, very good at what we do. It's all about the dollars and producing crops of high yield GMOs that have altered our grains, and arguably one reason for the dramatic increase in gluten intolerance, for example. I could go on, but I won't. Farmers work 7 days a week for most of the year, many travelling long distances just to get their children, like mine, to school buses. So families also have to endure these hardships equally. They do this, however, without complaint, and while it could be argued it is a lifestyle choice, thankfully choosing this commitment make Western Australia the largest producer of grains and export sheep for world markets. My hat's off to you, mate. While contributing significantly to beef markets and a multitude of other products, for example, that are of extremely high quality. Roughly 80% of Western Australian gross domestic product is derived from hard work in the bush by dedicated and resilient West Aussies, and in recognition of this, in 2008, the politician Brendan Grills proposed the initiative for 25% of royalties earned in the bush from mining and petroleum production to be kept aside to reinvest in the regions. Some projects were achieved, but rarely was the money ever spent to its full potential, despite the fact that towns have failing infrastructure. Many of you would have experienced driving through our regional towns and seeing the depressed state they are in, and many now are virtual ghost towns. It is saddening. Within the last few weeks, in the central wheat belt, Green Hills and Querieting hotels closed, along with the last remaining supermarket at Ravensthorpe. This creates that many cultural and travel issues for residents. In 2022 alone, for example, 11 retail outlets just in Merredin closed and were not replaced. The towns are shrinking. Major banks have been shut down, and this has made it difficult for essential financial and consumer services, not to mention the loss of jobs and families in this region, or in the regions. The hardships that these closures create are just further nails in the coffin for a regional way of life. The royalties for regions funds discussed earlier to make life easier for regional people is currently being raped by the Labor Party for metro-based projects, and I have not heard one word of condemnation by any politician. There are two here that do really care today, and I'll make that statement straight up. Sophia and Louise, and of course we've got Pete in the crowd that's standing in as an independent. So it's not aimed at you guys, okay? Kind of like the silence on this hill, apart from a couple, that should have been our voice during the mandates for the experimental gene therapy vaccines and the tyrannies and illegal coercion that accompanied that violation on the West Australian people. This relentless assault on regional areas is nothing new. The Labor Party decreased significantly regional voices by changing the structure of the Legislative Assembly by the Legislative Council or Upper House in this Parliament, blending regional voices into city electorates, effectively gagging regional issues. But we must keep reminding ourselves that save for a couple of attempts at making regions viable, successive governments have systematically dismantled rural communities for decades. It is not just a coincidental consequence of modernisation, rather it is a deliberate strategy to push people out of the region areas and into densely populated urban centres. The potential consequences of this design are dire. There is significant threat to our food security, with a greater reliance on vegetables and other foodstuffs either imported from the eastern states or internationally. When our farming production is completely eradicated, we will be at the mercy of governments and monopoly corporations. Agriculture for nearly 200 years in WA has been the backbone of regional communities. However, we all have heard of the trucking and tractor protests across the entire world. We are not alone in this fight. World government imposing stringent regulations have made it increasingly difficult to operate to meet a United Nations ideology of sustainable living. If you interrogate your own individual shires, Future visions and objectives, you will see the UN influence of sustainability all dressed up to make it look pretty and inviting through sustainable development goals and maintained reversal. I do not need to elaborate on this violation of the people of the world, as it is widely publicised by social media and media outlets that are not dedicated who are dedicated, to media moguls that finance parasitical journalists and media in mainstream. Environmental policy to support fake climate change and net zero agendas, including water restriction, carbon taxes and land use limitations, such as the Western Australian Cultural Heritage Act, for example, is being weaponised, reducing farmers' ability to produce their broad range of products across the state. Another concern for farmers is the GMOs mentioned earlier. Many now understand the folly of this original trickery and the problems it has. Sorry folks, it's just jumping around a bit. Oh dear. Okay, environmental policies to support fake climate change and net zero agendas, including water restrictions, carbon taxes, land use limitations such as West Australian Cultural Heritage Act. That is actually worthwhile mentioning twice. For example, is being weaponised to reduce farmers' ability to produce their broad range of product across the state. We understand the folly of this original trickery because it has caused real issues in our food chain, and untested mRNA is also what we are concerned about, that is based in treatment that will replace tried and proved safe livestock inoculation, and we are concerned about the long-term health effects and erosion of natural food production. And understand this, folks, while we will do our very best to resist this evil of products such as Bovaer and Ruminate, designed to allegedly reduce cattle from burping and farting, the corporate agricultural machine has no issue at all in poisoning food supplies. Rising costs of fertilisers, fuel-reduced subsidies have caused many farmers to shut down, paving the way for the monopolies to buy them up. What we all must ask ourselves is, do we want to be corralled into a sustainable or freedom cities, relying on laboratory-grown foods, ever-increasing scrutiny on our choices, monitoring of our most personal activities, restriction on movement, and so many other violations of our God-given human rights? Or will we give more attention to what governments intend for us and push back by standing for local government, state and federal elections ourselves? Or carefully choosing, nurturing and supporting others that will, like Peter McLernand? If we do not change direction and assist now in these strategies, we will soon lose what it is to be Australian through the loss of our romantic, unique and traditional culture. And given current trends, I am very concerned about the abomination that will replace it. God bless you all.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you very much. I did need a sidekick for a joke, but he's taken a load off under an umbrella over there. I'm so sorry I can't entertain you all. Not participating in jokes. But anyway, I just wanted to bring you some other great news. Of course, we do have all of these wonderful groups uniting today, and that is the fabulous opportunity that we have to shape our future, is when groups unite. And I just want to say that the area that I work in is media, and I just want to bring you good news that we also work together. We work with local community leaders, we work with politicians, we work with non-profits and NGOs, we work with researchers, media hosts of other forums, and many community figures. The Aligned Council of Australia, the Light Australian newspaper, and also Reignite Democracy Australia. So the media also takes huge thoughts into continuing to work together. So that's some more great news about unity of everyone that's concerned for these topical issues that affect all of us. So our last wonderful guest is another sitting member in this place behind us, or behind me. It is the Honourable Louise Kingston, and she is also currently running for the state election coming up on the 8th of March on the M group as well. We had Sophia at the start of the rally today. So Louise is an Albany girl, born and bred, and now lives in Manjimup. She's extremely passionate about standing up for personal and property rights. She's a fierce advocate for the rights of people, small business, farmers, fishers and sporting shooters. And she's definitely an advocate for those who need their voices heard. So it's my great pleasure. A round of applause for the Honourable Louise Kingston.
Thank you very much. And to those that have stayed for the whole thing, you deserve a medal. It's pretty damn hot here today. And yeah, so my background, I grew up at the whaling station in Albany, and we went on to develop Whale World. So it was in a time that I watched the emergence of what you would now call the green groups, and the information that was being provided in such a provocative, emotional and believable way. And the voices of the really hard-working people were the ones that were being lost. In 2001, I moved to Manjimup, and that was at the time where the forestry industry was on its knees as well, once again through government intervention. And I fought very, very hard to try and get the truth out there and to try to get people understand what our foundation industries in Australia have done for us and why we need to fight for them. So I've got my 5 F's for freedom, which are fishing, firearms, forestry, 4-wheel driving, and of course farming. And I try at every turn to talk to people about why supporting people in business is so important. We've got the rise and rise and rise of the big corporations that just squeeze the little guys out of business to the point where they take the narrative and they spread lies and they tell us how we're going to live our lives. This election is going to be really interesting. So to run as an independent, you had to get 250 individual declarations each. Then you had to pay a $2,000 fee per person, up to $10,000 for the 5 of us, to form a group so that we could get a box above the line. So last election there were 49 independents. This election there's only 10. So that tells you what the major parties want in terms of stifling the democratic debate. And that's why we're here today. We've got this bloody great grey layer in the middle, all the bureaucratical nightmare that we have to, as small business people, we have to navigate every day, and every day it gets more and more difficult to the point where you've got to employ people to actually navigate that compliance and regulation. So I stepped up. I wasn't in Parliament during COVID. I was only elected in September 2023, but I was a staunch opposition to the mandatory jabs, and I'm not going to call them vaccinations. And that I've been called a conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat nut job, amongst other things, and then obviously dumped by one of the major parties because of my stance on it. But I have a very personal story to tell, which I think a lot of people out there that chose not to engage in it had as well. So I have an inherited condition, and I could not get any information from anybody on the effect it was going to have on me, and that worried me. And then I was talking to other people, and I got the "it's safe and effective," don't worry about it, Louise, it's all good. I tried to get an exemption, which I couldn't for my medical condition, And quite frankly, I'm pretty damn sure if I had got it, that I wouldn't be standing here now. It's as simple as that. So I fought for those people, those voiceless people that kept coming to me. I ran an organisation in Manjimup at the time, and I fought very, very hard to find a way for them to be able to stand up against what was going on, which was terrifying. So research led me down all manner of different paths, and I checked everything. And what I found was 95% of people in the world are actually compliant. So it's very, very easy to spread a narrative and for people just to go lockstep, and that is actually quite terrifying. There's only 5% of us that will actually stand up and actually be heard, and it's very, very difficult. As we've seen, mainstream media's left. They didn't stay to listen to the whole story. They'll have their angle and they'll peddle that in the media. And so together, this election is probably one of the most important elections in Western Australia we've ever seen. The changes to the electoral laws means it makes it much, much harder to vote for those people that are going to stand up for your beliefs. So on March 8th, make sure Group M is our group of independents, one above the line. Also, if you have certain beliefs, choose your candidates below the line. They've actually made that easier, which is quite funny. So you only have to vote 1 to 20 below the line. So do your research, find out which candidates stand for what you believe in, and make your vote count. The other thing is, of course, we've got a couple of young people here, which is wonderful. The young people, yes, yeah, youngest here. The young people are so brainwashed by our education system. You know, it's so left and it's so woke that we need to be, talking to our kids about these issues, talking to our grandkids, making sure that they know when they get to voting age that their vote counts. So many come through pre-polling and on polling day, I've just come to get my name marked off. They're always the ones that come into my office and then want me to help them with something when there's an issue. The first thing I ask is, well, did you do a valid vote at the last election? Because that's how you make change. That's how you show the major parties that they are not representing the people of Western Australia or Australia. So make sure on March 8th that you make a stand, you tell as many people as you can how to navigate that voting system, because it's just horribly complicated. And let's show Western Australia what everybody wants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louise. Louise was our last speaker today. She was just talking to you about the election. I have been interviewing a number of candidates, independents and from different parties. Head along to Courageous Q on Rumble and share those videos as well, because I interview people the mainstream media are ignoring. I want to say a huge thank you before we bring up our wonderful Martine to send us off to Aaron from Edge Radio Australia. Amazing, fantabulous human. Yes, it's a word, I coined it. Thank you all, and I'll bring Martine back from Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay to fare us all well. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Robin. Wow, what an amazing group of speakers. You couldn't have a bunch of representatives that really do know what's going on here in Western Australia and what's going on in the agendas to destroy our state. There's a lady that wasn't able to talk today. I think she's just ducked off. Her name is Alex Nicol. And I would like to do a big shout out to my dear soul sister, Alex. She has been with us from the beginning with Save Our Beloved Geograph Bay, and she joined us in going up to all the communities, especially going up to Kalbarri and supporting them. So I would like to say thank you to all those that have travelled so far from Esperance. Max, thank you, Max. You're a legend. To our brothers and sisters down there we oppose the Southern Marine Park, we are more united than ever. We have the same sights on the federal and state government and the treason that they're committing upon the people because they're not listening to what we want. Also to the Kalbarri crew, well done. A lot of travelling here and you guys are relentless, as Robin would say. for coming and putting so much energy in. I know that we've been in this together, and I'm always out there banging the drum about what's going on at the liquefied green ammonia up in Kalbarri. I've got a lovely lady from that area that's just going to come up and quickly talk. Yep. She's got a few little words to say before I wrap up.
I promised to be quick. I did have a speech prepared, but Sharky represented as well. There just are a few things that I want people to really be aware of with Kalbarri. We have the new Kalbarri Skywalk, $24 million worth of Skywalk, and our tourism numbers have gone from 200,000 to 450,000 since that Skywalk's been put in place. With the Murchison Green Hydrogen project, they propose 523 wind turbines. Now those wind turbines, you're going to see from every lookout in Kalbarri, every high spot in Kalbarri, and the new Kalbarri Skywalk. So visitors who come to our beautiful, pristine little piece of land, instead of all those beautiful landscapes that they see when they visit these high locations, they will now have a view of turbines. There's also 7,000 solar panels to power this project. That's 70 square kilometres of solar. They're planning to pipe the ammonia along the ocean floor out to a floating platform and load it onto ships. And every little bit of product goes overseas. There is not one bit that remains in Australia. For this, they're going to sacrifice Kalbarri. Our population's roughly around between 14 and 1,500 people. They're talking about bringing in 3,600 people just for construction. Our town will be totally changed forever. So I guess I just wanted to highlight those few significant points that really are so big. So 523 wind turbines, 7,000 hectares of solar purely to power their plant. And none of it benefits Kalbarri. To date, they have refused to negotiate with our Shire on a monetary value for the Shire. And just last week, the Department of Lands Planning, or whatever they're called, Heritage Mob, have tried to come over the top of process with a letter to our Shire trying to get them to agree to rezoning, I think it was 250,000 hectares of Murchison House Station with a 30-year lease, followed up by another 15 years and another 15 years. This project has yet to go through scheme amendment, so the government is trying to override the people of this country and help this Danish company bring this plant to our shores. So that's Kalbarri's little story. Thank you.
Thank you, Pip. To say that the people in Kalbarri have been hard against it. They got smashed by a cyclone and they haven't really ever recovered, as I can see it, because from a population it was around 5,000, now there's 1,500. So they're pushing back hard and they've got our support. The other thing I'd like to do is mention Save the Nullarbor Plain. This is a new group that we've started communicating with and they are joining the fight with us. So Canberra and the state, you better watch out, we're coming for you. So please go and support that group, Save the Nullarbor, because that's the massive green hub that's 100 kilometres by 200 kilometres of a solar array. And then they're going to have onshore, offshore wind turbines, desalination plant and liquefied green ammonia plant. Right in the middle of a marine park. That makes sense, doesn't it? Please explain, as Pauline would say. Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple of thank yous personally I'd like to make. Thank you so much, Robin. Please, big round of applause for Robin from Courage is a Cure. Absolute legend, soul sister. I don't even know what to say. We're in this together. We know how to use our dark humour sometimes. We know how to use our dark humour to get through some crazy days, don't we?
Absolutely. If you can't laugh, we go insane.
Yeah, that's about us. So also to Aaron and my crew, also Edge Radio. Thank you, Aaron.
Edge, yeah!
Some know that I am a presenter at Edge Radio, also have my own segment, so whatever, give that a plug because we can. So please go on and support these groups because they are out here giving a platform and a voice to independent voices, the truth and some transparency to this whole thing that is just an absolute treasonous plan. I'd like to say thank you to my own crew that has supported me, especially Suzanne and Maureen. Suzanne, I think you're still here. Where is she? Somewhere. So thank you, Suzanne. Our trip to Canberra coming up is going to be really interesting. To Maureen, bless your cotton socks, well into her 70s, and she's still wanting to kick in the boots as much as she can. Darren, you're here. Thank you so much, my friend. You and Narelle. Without your support down in our neck of the woods, I think we'd all go a bit bonkers. Alex, thank you. Sophia, all the presenters today. Rob, Adrian, Scott, Sharky and Max, also Pip. Thank you for all your love, your energy and dedication. Without us coming together, we would be divided, and together we are stronger. And I know we're going to bloody win this because I know how tenacious we all are. So thank you everyone for turning up today, and I will see you out there. Anyone that's heading into town, if you'd like to go and check out Stuart, who's doing his walk of shame in Forest Chase. Other than that, I will sign off for today, but I am not even down or out. I'm in for the fight, and I've got my doogs up because I'm telling you now, I'm going to Canberra with a fire in my belly. Thank you.
So here I am at the wind turbine rally behind me, and yet the message once again is to put labour last. These proposed wind turbines are going to damage marine life, fishing, and you're going to ruin my other channel, Born in the Tent. Thank you.